Bonsoir à tous, je suis très heureuse de vous retrouver pour cette émission spéciale consacrée à la famille américaine, en partenariat avec notre petite sœur Sel Lumière, la chaîne de télévision catholique canadienne. Alors vous le savez, ces jours-ci, des milliers de familles sont réunies à Philadelphie pour la rencontre mondiale des familles, un événement que KTO vous fait vivre à travers des journaux quotidiens. Et pour nous faire découvrir ce que vivent des familles américaines, pour être en proximité avec elles, eh bien, Sel Lumière a réalisé une série de reportages en forme de témoignage. Celui des McAvoy ou des Stackpole, touchés par l'épreuve de la mort ou de la maladie, mais aussi celui de la famille Emerson, qui a soutenu un fils souhaitant devenir prêtre, ou encore les Lights, qui, eux, partagent tout simplement leurs joies et leurs difficultés du quotidien. Vous ferez ce soir la connaissance de 7 familles au parcours très différents, mais qui ont toutes en commun une foi forte qui les soutient envers et contre tout. Mais avant cela, comment s'est préparée la rencontre mondiale des familles et quels sont les défis auxquels sont confrontées aujourd'hui de nombreuses familles américaines ? Monseigneur Charles Chaput, archevêque de Philadelphie et qui accueille cet événement dans son diocèse, a répondu il y a quelques semaines aux questions de nos confrères de Sel Lumière. On l'écoute.
We have the local ordinary Archbishop Charles Chaput from Philadelphia, who's hosting this incredible event, which is really a prelude to another bigger event.
Bigger event, yeah. I think this is about 10% the size of just the convention part of the World Meeting of Families we're having. So
there you go, just a taste then. But thank you, thanks very much for taking some time to be with us. You presided over the Mass this morning to kick off this convention.
right.
And you said that explicitly, that this event is directly tied to the World Meeting of Families. But before we go into the convention itself, tell us about the preparations for the World Meeting. How are things coming? What is the atmosphere and the mood in Philadelphia at this time?
We have 49 days before the World Meeting of Families begins. And then 4 days after it begins, the Holy Father comes to town. So we have about 55 days of hard work yet as we prepare to welcome somewhere between 1 million and 1.5 million people to Philadelphia for this event. We really have been blessed by good numbers of people signing up. We had nearly 15,000 people signed up for the workshops and the keynote addresses during the first 4 days. The makeup is truly international. The largest single group coming after people from the States are people from Canada, which we're very happy to see. But the second largest group is coming from Vietnam.
Really?
It's just quite amazing. We thought the second largest group would be Mexico, perhaps, but it's Vietnam. Mexico's in there too, but we have large numbers of people coming from Africa.
Yeah.
So we're very, very happy with the international dimension of the World Meeting of Families. It's going to truly be a meeting of families from around the world to celebrate family life, but also to learn from one another how to be better families and how to deal with the specific issues and problems that families have these days.
One of the major themes of this convention, but the Knights of Columbus in general, is the promotion of family life, obviously healthy Catholic family life. And the context of the World Meeting of Families is falling into is this larger conversation we're having in the church today about the challenges of family life. But when you look at your own diocese, Archdiocese Philadelphia, you look at the United States as a country, what are you seeing? What are the great challenges? What are the things that the church has to stand up for and promote and support and say?
I think the most important thing is to encourage people to get married. We see a growing trend of young couples who live together, who have children, but don't commit themselves to each other in marriage. And so to do something to promote the joys of marriage and to dissipate the fears around marriage is, I think, is very, very important. That's really the most important issue. It's followed by divorce, which is sometimes easy without much thought and much effort. So people don't get married, and when they do get married, they often get divorced. So dealing with those kind of basic foundational issues are the most important things to deal with. They're not the issues that get the most attention, like the changing nature of marriage, gay marriage and the like, but they really are much more important and foundational.
You said this morning when you began your homily that with the World Meeting of Families looming, you said, my gosh, I feel like St. Joseph sometimes saying, what have I gotten myself into?
Right.
If you can look past all of the challenges and the work still ahead that you have to do, what are you most looking forward to when the World Meeting of Families actually starts and then we have culminating with the papal visit?
Well, you know, the last week, which is the celebration of the World Family's Health, is pretty easy for me. My role then is simply to be the host of the various speakers who are coming, and of course everybody who comes, but in a special way, the speakers at the workshops and the like, and also then to be the primary host for the Holy Father when he arrives. He's staying with me at my home, and I ride with him in his boatmobile, and I think those kind of things are going to be very interesting and actually a lot of fun. I don't think I'll have a lot of anxiety at that time because I can't do anything about it. At that point, we have everything in place.
It's in the hands of the Lord.
We hope the Lord gives us good weather and crowds that really do love one another and appreciate what's going on.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for taking time.
I'm very happy
to
to be with
you.
you. It's good to see you again.
It's always great
Sebastian.
to see you, and we look forward to seeing you in Philadelphia.
Thank you very much.
Malgré des épreuves qui semblaient insurmontables, la famille McAvoy n'a jamais vacillé dans sa foi et a choisi la vie. Leur fille Claire est atteinte d'une double malformation in utero. Elle semble condamnée, selon les médecins qui conseillent l'avortement. Mais les McAvoy font le choix de la garder en vie, encouragés par un autre médecin. C'est le début d'une aventure incertaine, mais qui, vous le verrez, se termine bien.
When we first learned of Claire's medical problems, it came as a real shock. I had got some news from our family doctor saying they wanted me to come in because there was a bit of a concern over an ultrasound. What the doctors told us is that there was too much fluid in, I believe it was probably one of my preborn daughter's ventricles in her brain.
That verse from Matthew, where Jesus told us, build your house on the rock because the storms are coming. And those storms at times are going to be really harsh. Well, finding out that your unborn baby is going to be severely brain damaged, and then thereafter finding out that she's going to need major open heart surgery, those are pretty big storms.
To add to it, the only solution that the doctors had was to have an abortion. So we left that day quite distraught.
I remember we came home, and at that point I just knelt down beside our bed and, was talking at God, telling God what God had to do to get this fixed. And then, what came through loud and clear to me was, thy will be done. I said that prayer over and over and over again. Thy will be done, thy will be done.
The obstetrician was wonderful, and he was pro-life, and he knew where we were coming from, and he almost could speak for us, knowing how strongly we felt about the protection and the sanctity of human life.
You just felt like, you had somebody in your corner who you were on the same page in terms of what was important.
The people there were very good, very caring, and it just exhibited a very pro-life, pro-family atmosphere.
That just took off the table, any discomfort about, going into a doctor and having to explain and wondering whether they were wondering, why the heck are these people doing this? Like, what's the matter with them? Like, that just wasn't even a consideration because we knew he was coming from the same place.
So she arrived 7 weeks early in the end. She would be considered a high-risk delivery. She was under 3 pounds. And they took her right away to take care of her because they knew that there was also that concern about the ventricles in her brain as well.
So at a certain point, that concern dissipated. Then all of a sudden they realized that there were very real issues with the heart.
Because she was premature, there was a hole in her heart that they thought would heal and close up after she grew up a little bit, but in fact it didn't close.
From a perspective of just, now you've got 3 kids, you're young yourself, there's money worries, there's, all kinds of stress, and now that, your daughter's going to have major open heart surgery. My mind went to sort of the fear and feeling overwhelmed.
On the day of course, it was just overwhelming just to bring her down to the hospital and to see her all hooked up. But we knew that she was in good hands. We knew that she was going to get through this. I think that's where our faith, and just try to hang on to our faith and our belief that God was watching over her and that He'll provide.
Hello, Claire. Hello.
She came home 5 weeks later, and she's still very tiny. It was, you know, just family life as usual in a sense. She had a big sister and a big brother who loved her very much.
I have no problem believing it was a miracle. We stormed heaven with prayers, as did family and friends and a whole bunch of people we didn't even know. And again, that's one of the powers of the faith community.
I know that the doctors had told my parents I wasn't going to be able to be full term. As a kid, I was healthy enough to do any of the sporting activities I liked to. So I liked to swim, and I did figure skating as a kid. I don't really remember any physical challenges.
When I look at Claire today, I don't think about all those things that happened so many years ago. She is someone we love with all of our hearts. She is a gift from God, and she's one of 6 beautiful kids that God has given us to love and to be parents to, and to do our best to encourage and support and help them through this life.
My parents, the strength that they had to have, the faith they had to have to face all those doctors and tough times when I was not even born, like, it just shows how much they love me, and before they even knew me. So thank you. Like, at the end of the day, that's all I can say to them, and that I'm proud of them for the decisions that they made.
L'histoire de la vie et de la mort du pompier new-yorkais Timothy Stackpole nous montre sans doute un exemple de ce que peut signifier une vraie vie de foi et de service. Père de 5 enfants, Timothy a été tué dans les attentats du World Trade Center le 11 septembre 2001. Aujourd'hui, son histoire partagée par sa femme Tara continue à inspirer l'espoir, le pardon et la foi dans toutes les familles, surtout celles frappées par cette tragédie.
Timmy came from a very big family, 5 children. I came from a family of 7 children. And our families were very important to us, and we were very close to our families. When we decided to have children, we always wanted to have a big family because we had such a good thing growing up with that. We wanted to share that too, and we wanted to share our families with our children. Well, Timmy was a New York City firefighter, and he loved his job. He was very good at what he did. In 1998, he was injured in a very bad house fire in Brooklyn, where they were on the 2nd floor of a house fire, and the floor gave way, and there was a collapse, and they fell into the 1st floor, which was pretty much a burning inferno at this point. And he just started to pray, and he started to pray the Our Father at the top of his lungs. And the other firefighters that were pinned also, you know, told me later they remembered him praying out loud to everyone. Unfortunately, 2 of those firefighters perished in that fire, and Timmy was burned over 38% of his body, with 2nd and 3rd degree and 4th degree in some places on his legs. The night he was taken to the hospital, they put him in an ambulance, and our good friend Mike, who's a fireman, got in with him, and Father Michael Judge, who was a Franciscan fire chaplain for New York City Fire Department, climbed in the ambulance with him as well. Our friend Mike took a rosary out of his pocket and placed it in Timmy's hand, and the 3 of them prayed the rosary together in the ambulance on the way to the burn center in New York. This was how he lived his life every day. He believed in God. He believed God was with him in what he did. You know, he prayed for the right choices. He prayed to make the right decisions in life. And he prayed to be brave. And within 3 years, he was approved to go back to work full duty. And they promoted him to captain in September of 2001. And he was working his 2nd tour as a captain on September 11th.
Guys, it was a plane that struck the building. For some reason, only giving me a few units. You're going to have to give it to me over the radio. I'm ready to write. All right. Engine 211.
He always called, and when things were on the news and things happened in the fire department, he would find a way to call or get a message to me that he was okay. And I didn't get a message that day.
You have a second plane into the other tower of the Trade Center. Major fire. What? Okay. Manhattan calling call 4 David. Call 4 David, Manhattan. All right, be advised, you're on the second plane. C3, a major collapse in one of the towers. Tower, okay. Tower 2. The South Tower, major collapse. 10-4. Manhattan field, okay.
I remember having this overwhelming feeling that I had to sit down. I almost fainted when I saw that tower collapse on the news. And I can't explain it, but I felt a disconnect, like I had a feeling he was gone. But it was the most difficult thing. It was the most difficult night of my life to ever have to tell my kids that. But I knew that I had to find hope. There were a lot of people out there that were going to need hope. And I had to find a way to raise our children the way that Timmy and I set out to raise them together. I remember shortly after Timmy's funeral going to a funeral of a good friend of ours, another firefighter, and somebody came up to me after that funeral, and I remember kind of walking around like a zombie in those days and just going through the motions, and you couldn't believe you were at another funeral. And I remember a fireman coming up to me and saying to me, you know, it means a lot that you come to these funerals. And I thought, there's hundreds of people at this funeral, why would that, you know? And he said to me, you don't understand, it gives people hope. If you could come here and be here, we could all come here and be here and move on. And I'll never forget that, because I thought that's such an important thing. And I thought, where do I get my hope from? Like, how do I have hope? Because I was heartbroken. But I think the hope came from my faith. And I can remember days just trying to get through hour by hour and saying, if this is your plan, you got to help me out here. And he did. And we got through it. And we tried our best to help others go through it. You know, family's not, it doesn't have to be the conventional, you know, family image that sometimes society portrays. Family is people that love each other, that have a common bond or common beliefs, common faith. And we're really, really lucky to have all those in our life. He looked at his job as a firefighter as a vocation in his life. He truly felt this is what he was supposed to do in life. He would preach forgiveness all the time, to the point where people would want to choke him, you know, but he knew that in order to be happy in your own life, you had to be able to forgive and to be forgiven. It's so simple, but it was so, it changed so many lives, you know, and you know, Timmy's testimony, praying the Our Father in the collapse, I can't tell you how many people came up to me over the years and said that it changed their life. Like, they never prayed and now they pray, you know, or I never went to church, but now I go to church and I bring my kids to church, or, you know, and it's just very simple, very simple. And he didn't set out to do that, but in living his life the way he did, he set an example for people, and he made a tremendous impact on people.
On va maintenant découvrir l'histoire de la famille Bolger qui vit à Toronto, en Ontario, la province située à l'ouest du Québec, au Canada. Il s'agit d'un couple très uni, mais qui n'échappe pas à l'épreuve avec la maladie d'Alzheimer qui touchera la mère. Contre toute attente, cette expérience va souder la famille, enfants et petits-enfants. Ils accompagneront leur mère et grand-mère jusqu'au bout et dans la dignité. On regarde ce reportage.
Our parents were really quite tightly connected. It's very difficult to think of a situation where they didn't do something together.
Well, I think my parents had a very strong relationship. There was a fundamental sort of caring and decency, and I know they supported each other very strongly in their respective interests throughout their lives together.
Our parents created an atmosphere in our household where there was peace, and I don't think any of us could ever say that we so much as heard one raise their voice towards the other.
The only thing nicer than young love is old love, and they were the proof of that. But they became a regular part of my routine, and my responsibilities was to visit. And I was always very impressed from the get-go. After many years of marriage, after all the struggles that family life can be, and with all its joys, that they didn't just survive, but they thrived. They still loved each other, and they loved each other very deeply.
When we suspected that our mom had Alzheimer's, I guess it really didn't come, in some ways, as a big surprise, because you could see certain things happening and you really weren't aware of what the real reason was, but you knew something was not quite right.
There were little things that she would do around the house that just didn't seem right. She started to wander a little bit. She would misplace things or become obsessed with things around the house.
She was a very vibrant, energetic woman who was involved in lots of activities. And as she started having difficulties, there were fewer and fewer things that she could continue to do. And I think that caused her frustration.
To see that somebody who had been so motivated, so inquisitive, was being hit by a disease like this was, you say it's unfair, it's unfortunate, it's sad, and to see all of a sudden all those traits slowly disappearing is very difficult.
I remember the way they would pray together or hold their hands, the gentleness of them with each other. I remember his great patience with her. He would always let her speak, and she would begin a sentence and not remember by the end where she had begun. And she would just sort of turn to him, and he would finish it. He knew her thoughts. He knew where she was going, and there was never any sense of frustration, any impatience. The two had become one.
I was trying to recall what my mother said and what her reaction was to the diagnosis. And I found it interesting. She said, this isn't something we can't take care of. So then I thought, well, good for her. It showed the strength of her character.
My mom had 4 children within 5 years. So I think the early years were very busy.
For my parents, it was all about what they could do for the kids, how they could help make our life better, and all that stuff that we never appreciated as young people. And this was kind of this full circle coming around. It was our turn to support her.
It was a lot. I mean, I was very happy to help my parents, don't get me wrong, but did it change things in my life? Absolutely. There were times when there were things I wanted to do that I couldn't do because they needed help. The care she received when she moved into long-term care was excellent. All of the caregivers loved her. They had an ability to see beyond the lack of communication to what kind of person she really was at heart.
The staff there was terrific. Hats off to the people that get into that. Most of us would say, I don't want to deal with that, or I can't deal with that, but they go back time and time again.
It's a Catholic long-term care facility, and we knew in a facility like that the emphasis would be on the dignity of the human person. So that was very important for us and for her.
We could not have done as good a job at home. And I know a lot of people think, it's best if you can keep your loved ones at home. She wouldn't have received the care she needed if we'd kept her at home.
I think it's important, first of all, for people to appreciate who's suffering when and what the suffering really is. So on the early stages of Alzheimer's, you can see that there's great frustration with the patient. As you get into the mid stages of Alzheimer's, the patient doesn't realize quite what's going on. So all of a sudden, there's a transfer that takes place. So the suffering goes back to the family and friends.
It's all part of a very human process, which is imperfect, it's difficult, but at the end of the day, I think it provided us with an opportunity for the family to come together.
We all get old and we all get needy. And that doesn't diminish us, our humanity. It doesn't diminish God's love for us. It gives occasion for greater love from those of us who are called Christian.
It was just a wonderful experience for my children. They were able to go and help her, to feed her, to talk to her. We saw how important it was for her to be treated with dignity right to the very end. We really had a living example of the dignity of human life, and it was a wonderful experience in that regard.
On part maintenant à la rencontre d'Ashley et de Gregory Light, un couple vivant à Cornwall, en Ontario. Avec seulement 6 ans de mariage à leur actif, un seul parent travaillant et tous deux parents de 3 petites filles âgées de 6 mois à 4 ans, la vie n'est pas toujours facile, surtout dans une société bâtie pour les familles avec un double salaire. Malgré les difficultés du quotidien, eh bien la famille Light ne perd jamais de vue l'essentiel. Avec un peu d'aide de la famille élargie et surtout beaucoup de foi en Dieu, la famille Light garde l'espérance. On regarde.
My name is Greg, this is my wife Ashley. We've known each other for 10 years. We've been married for 6.5. We have 3 little girls, aged 4.5, 3, and 6 months. I'm a teacher, but I hold other jobs as well. I have, in a given year, about 4 jobs to be able to allow my wife to stay home with our children.
During my mat leave, so we're talking, I think Charlotte was about 7 months old, and I realized 5 months from then, I would have to go back to work. I remember feeling very anxious. When I would think about that, I'd feel stressed, sort of thing, like, how can I go back to work? She's so little. I expressed my fears to my husband and just kind of told him, I don't think I want to go back to work. And he was very supportive in that time. And he's like, if you don't want to go back to work, I'm fine with that. If you want to stay home, I think that's great. Greg had even said on a couple occasions, you know, like, I wouldn't mind staying at home. You know, I would stay at home if you wanted to go to work. It doesn't matter, sort of thing. But I think it was just more that I wanted to stay at home.
And we were in a funny situation. When we got married, she was the one with the career, not me. I was just coming out of teacher's college. So, so she had to give up that career, and I had to start a career. It's very comforting knowing that I have somebody I can absolutely trust 100% with the care of my children. And I wouldn't feel that way otherwise. I think there's a lot to say for a mother's nurturing care that, not that I don't have that, I certainly do, and I definitely love my children, obviously, but there is an element that Ashley has that I don't.
With Greg's career choice of being a teacher, as great of a job as it is, salary-wise and benefits-wise, he's not a permanent teacher, which means that he doesn't get any benefits. And he's not guaranteed work, like he's worked contracts that are only part-time and stuff like that, so that's why he has to work so many other jobs. I mean, he works during the day, and then he works in the evening, and he works on the weekends, so, you know, it's hard sometimes because I don't have him there maybe to help, or I don't have him here to just spend time with, you know what I mean? So that's a bit of a challenge too, but we know it's for the greater good, so that's why we're okay with it, and we just keep trucking on because we know it's coming, and we know we'll get to a point where it'll just be a little bit easier.
We're very fortunate in that her parents are 5 minutes down the road. She has an uncle across the bay from us. Her cousins live around the corner. Her grandparents are all in the area. And another nice factor is that my mother lives with us. So we've got a ton of support. And I don't know if we'd be able to do this without that family support. The world is built for double income families. There are certain things that people find very commonplace in their lives that we do without. And I don't mean to give the impression that we're struggling either, because we're not, but to stay afloat, things are different.
We have to, not be extravagant, It's just we pay the bills we have to pay, and we just buy the things that we need to buy.
I think there's a huge element of hope. For sure, because, I don't know, we definitely see a brighter future. So I run my own business as well, and it's going exceptionally well, and I foresee a future where I can do that part-time and teach, and we're very secure.
I mean, I never have a moment of fear, like, are we gonna make it, is this gonna work?
Worry's definitely there. I definitely worry sometimes, like, oh no, I don't know if I can make mortgage this month or whatever,
I guess that's because he deals with the financials, but I don't.
But it all works out. Faith is central to our family life. We say prayers at night all together. I like them to think about their day. It helps them to jog their memory and remember what they've done throughout the day, and think of the good, think of the ways they could have improved themselves. So we structure our prayer very deliberately in that way.
As much as everything is a struggle, and sometimes some days are harder than others, or months, whatever the case may be, it just comes down to, we know that God knows what he's doing. It just comes down to faith.
Une fois n'est pas coutume sur le continent nord-américain, la famille révèle compte 14 membres. La prière en famille fait depuis toujours partie de leur quotidien. Mais comment une famille avec 12 enfants, dont l'aîné a 18 ans, arrive à faire cela, et surtout pourquoi? Alors pour le savoir, je vous propose de regarder ce reportage.
Used to say the rosary before we had kids. When we got married, it was something that we did together, and then as we had the kids, we just continued. So it was a very natural part of what we did.
To the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
I grew up with it, and so did Steve. It was a big part of our life. I guess one of the norms of piety that followed me through my life.
I remember as a kid going on car trips, and the litany is probably what I remember of the rosary, just saying pray for us, pray for us, pray for us over and over again. And so it was something that naturally took root in our family life.
It gives us a lot of graces, because in a large family, people ask us all the time, how do you do it? You kind of just say, well, we just do. We just, we do it, and it's really the grace of God. We kind of use that as a means for praying for others and for our family.
It's an opportunity for us to all spend time together, which is hard enough often in this day and age, right? Another thing that we do together is we eat a family meal, right? In the evenings, pretty much every night. While the kids have still been young, we've made it a tradition, right? And so then it kind of unifies the activities of the day at that one moment, and it brings everybody together. I think everybody likes that kind of peaceful, kind of quiet moment.
We never force the kids to pray, but they know, okay, this is the time we say the family rosary, and everybody always seems to come.
I really like it that our family prays together. It kind of brings us closer together. I have something that a lot of people don't have, and I wish I could share it with everyone.
Most families wouldn't say the rosary all together. It's part of my routine, and when I miss it, I feel not bad, but it makes a difference.
Sometimes you can't be with those people who need the prayers, but you can be thinking about them when you're praying the rosary, and you feel like you've done something to help them out. My aunt always says prayer goes such a long way from children, especially because God listens to our prayers so much more, so it's the least we can do for people who have given so much to us.
Kids see the adults taking the time and making time and effort to do something, so they see that it's important to you, and that for sure carries forward, right? When they grow up and they get older, even though they may not see it right away, yeah, I think they'll see that that was a moment of real, sort of calm in the midst of kind of the stormy day.
Voici les Bénédictes, une famille ordinaire mais à la vie extraordinaire. Parents de 5 enfants, ils apprennent en cours de grossesse que leur 6e enfant, un petit garçon, sera lourdement handicapé. Les chances de survie sont minces, mais Sam vivra. Malgré le poids d'une vie qui bascule, Sam, avec ses différences, montre à ses parents et à ses frères et sœurs un autre chemin, celui de l'abandon et du don de soi.
I was 33 weeks pregnant, went in for my appointment for Sam, and they couldn't find his heartbeat. But he was moving, so they did get our physician, who's a very good friend of ours, Catholic, pro-life doctor. He couldn't find it either, and so he sent us across the street to the hospital for an ultrasound, and they did the ultrasound, and his heartbeat was 66 beats per minute, which is less than half of normal. And they did a stat C-section. Within 8 minutes from that to when they got him out, he was dead at birth. And he had no heartbeat. They had to do compressions, epinephrine, intubate him, and they were able to obviously revive him. He was 3 pounds, 15 ounces, and things got very difficult from there because he wasn't able to swallow.
Here you go, bud. Here, bud.
At that hospital, they told us to say goodbye to him. We took the ventilator off. We had a priest come to baptize him, and we're really saying goodbye to him, and he didn't die. We were sent to the Children's Hospital here in Grand Rapids, where Sam was diagnosed with Hallerman-Streiff syndrome, which is a very rare disorder.
Don't touch my face, Sam.
He had cataracts at birth that were removed, and so he's like 99% blind. 5 times a day he gets food. Takes about 30 minutes. He's suctioned at will, literally. So if he's messing around and playing around with the kids, it's a lot more because he's creating more saliva.
There's a value to everybody, and for us to say, oh, just forget it, lost cause wasn't an option. You can't just do away with people that way. There's a purpose and a reason for everybody.
We brought him home expecting him to die. A lot of kids with this syndrome die in the night for some reason. So we go to bed every night and thank God for this one more day that we've had with him. We live with a saint, really, and he teaches so much to all of us that I don't think that anybody else could teach us. I think that he sees things that we don't see. He has so much joy, even though, I mean, you can look at him and think that he's in pain and he's suffering, and that poor child, we hear it all the time, sometimes can be the most difficult thing to hear because, quite honestly, he's the happiest child we have in our family because everybody pays attention to him. If he whimpers or cries, he's got 5 kids at his side begging to pick him up and wanting to hold him and to take care of his needs. He's never sitting alone.
He's really taught us a lot about surrendering and about giving. Sam needs care all the time because he has this issue with his swallowing, and it's hard to do at night, when you need to sleep. To wake up to him it's a joy, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Come here. Come on. Come here. Oh, you made it!
I think for us, we're very ordinary people living an extremely extraordinary life. I'm very blessed beyond measure to be his mom and to love him and be given the opportunity to raise Sam.
Comment réagit-on quand on est parent et que l'on apprend que l'un de ses fils souhaite devenir prêtre? Eh bien, c'est ce qui est arrivé à la famille Emerson, qui vit à Madison, dans l'État du Wisconsin, aux États-Unis. Scott, leur troisième fils, a répondu oui à l'appel de devenir prêtre, peu après avoir été diplômé d'université. Un choix auquel ses parents ne s'attendaient pas, mais qu'ils ont entièrement soutenu, comme on va le voir dans ce dernier reportage.
He was the third of 4 sons. He went to Catholic grade school, kindergarten through 8th grade. Then he went to our public high school, and then of course he went on to Marquette University, where he was involved in college life and college ministry. His youngest brother mentioned the priesthood when he was in 2nd and 3rd grade. And Tim not only wanted to be a priest, but he said, how long does it take to be a bishop? So he always kind of snickered about that.
I think he was a great son growing up myself. Yes, there's always things that you do as a young man that are questionable, you know, and things, but really, speaking in general, he was fantastic.
My name is Scott Emerson. I'm from the Diocese of Madison, Wisconsin, and I'd like you to meet my parents. So here's Diane Emerson, my mother, who raised me from, taught me everything I needed to know, how to pray, and then here's my dad, Steve Emerson, who taught me how to use my hands and how to have a good work ethic.
He had told us he was going to go on to grad school, and I believe Marquette offered him a PhD in neuroscience because he had been working in a lab for 2 years. So that was what our thought was. That's what his future plans were. But then a month later, after graduation, he came to us and said that he was going to enter the seminary.
Going down the road that, you know, he's gone through college and has this PhD offered to him and things like that, and is dating a fantastic girl, and life is just moving on. And when it hits you, you have to make a big adjustment in your life.
You never expect your son to go into the priesthood. I think they were a little overwhelmed, but in kind of taken aback a bit, but I knew that they would come around.
Steve and I both had signs along the way that told us that this was the right decision and reassured us. Even with our masses at our local parish, we'd leave church and we just both would have certain signs. And it was comfort to us, and we knew it was the right decision for Scott. And then we saw how happy he was.
This is a very important decision, a decision made by them, and that once they make that decision, then you need to really get behind them and support them fully. I mean, it's their decision. It wasn't my decision, it was his decision.
My whole life has been a decision. I mean, they've been a support for my faith the whole time, taught me how to pray. My grandparents taught me how to pray, took me to Mass every weekend. And just the joy of the Catholic faith amongst the family, to pray at meals every day. Like, all these things lead up to a decision to enter into the seminary.
Overwhelmed with joy. I mean, it was hard to hold back tears as you're asking me again to relive it. But overjoyed. It's like, this day is finally here, in this beautiful basilica in, you know, the heart of Rome, the heart of the Catholic faith. You know, we're in Vatican City.
If the Lord is truly calling you to a life of priesthood, you can only put him off for so long. And the words that I can think of is be not afraid when you hear those words from John Paul II, be not afraid. And when it says it in the gospel, you know, it's in there 50 times that says be not afraid, and that is speaking to you to any problems that there is in the world. It's a human church that through all that, be not afraid because the Lord is there.
Voilà, c'est la fin de cette émission spéciale consacrée à la famille américaine. J'espère qu'elle vous a plu. Merci à la chaîne de télévision catholique canadienne, Sel Lumière, de nous avoir permis de réaliser cette émission. Merci aussi à nos équipes techniques. Et puis bien sûr, restez avec nous pour vivre la rencontre mondiale des familles qui se poursuit ces jours-ci à Philadelphie, avec la venue bien sûr très attendue ce week-end du pape François qui clôturera cette rencontre. Des rendez-vous donc à ne pas manquer sur ktotv.com. Très belle soirée à tous et à bientôt sur KTO.